Hi, welcome back, and welcome to the last lecture in Statistics 1. In this last lecture, I'll provide a course summary, and you can use this basically to review for the final exam, or just to review all the procedures and concepts and things that we covered throughout this semester of Statistics 1. So I've divided the summary, and you can sort of divide the course, if you like, into sort of 4 segments or 4 chunks. I do research in working memory, and we know that it's hard to sort of keep in mind more than 4 things at one time, so I split it up into 4 nice bite-sized chunks, if you will. So the first chunk or first segment of the semester all just dealt with research methods and descriptive statistics. And that was lectures 1 through 6. The second segment was just simple and multiple regression. We spent a lot of time in multiple regression. That was lectures 7 through 14. In the third segment, I'll review group comparisons. So that's the t-tests and ANOVA lectures. And then finally, the last piece of the semester was dealing with non-normal distributions or non-linear relationships between predictors and outcomes. So we'll deal with that in the last segment. So in this first segment, let's go back to the beginning of the semester and talk about research methods and descriptive statistics. So remember in lecture 1, actually even in lecture 0, the lecture that occurred before we even started the course formally, we talked about different types of research methods, because it's important to know where your data are coming from when you engage in statistical analysis. So the 3 main types of research methods that I talked about were simple descriptive research, then experimental research, where we're doing randomized controlled experiments. And remember, the examples we used for that were the polio vaccine studies, where the independent variable was whether a child got a vaccination or a placebo, and the dependent variable was the diagnosis of polio or not, or if we looked at the level of community, the rate of polio diagnoses. Then we looked at correlational research, where there's no manipulation of an independent variable. We're not dealing with randomized controlled experiments. We're just looking at correlations across measures to try and test theories about certain constructs. And the examples we used there were personality research and intelligence research in psychology. From there, we just did descriptive statistics. So looking back, that stuff seems probably pretty easy now, right? Now that you've dealt with things like multiple regression, matrix algebra, moderation analyses. This was easy stuff now looking back, right? In descriptive statistics, first we took sort of a holistic view and we looked at distributions and histograms, and then we sort of zoomed in and looked at more specific summary statistics. And the main summary statistics we looked at were measures of central tendency, the mean, median, and mode, and measures of variability, standard deviation, and variance. We then went and looked at correlations, and I'm grouping this still under descriptive statistics because we didn't really talk about inferential statistics until we got to regression, right? So we talked about correlation sort of in the context of just describing the relationship between 2 variables. And in that lecture on correlation, we introduced the idea of covariance and the idea of the sum of cross products, right? So to get variance, we had sum of squares, and to get covariance, we had sum of cross products. And to look at correlations and to test the assumptions of correlations, we looked at scatter plots. So we had histograms to look at normal distributions, scatter plots to look at the linear relationship between 2 variables and to look at correlations. And then finally, in that first chunk of the semester, I talked a lot about measurement. And again, that's something that's important to me because it's important to my own research. So we talked about classical true score theory, which comes from psychometrics. And 2 really important pieces of that are reliability and validity. So how reliable are your measures and are they valid measures of the construct that under investigation. So that's an important piece to understand, especially if you're looking at correlational data. So that's sort of the first part of the semester, was just descriptive statistics and correlation and measurement.